Well, I've never been able to get my stitches to cover my outside edges. They always pull in, which makes them pull loose. They never cover
On
all
on
my
what is
dream.
on which block is in any block particularly, or all of the
Just when
blocks?
I started. And because I couldn't get it to start right, I stopped.
And you were using the PEZ files?
Yes.
Okay, so that's an interesting the designs, we haven't actually updated the design. So for there were actually a bunch of people who had questions about Simply Dreaming.
I was one of them.
Okay, so
Gave us new dates on the design files, and I wasn't sure.
that is potentially purely because the designs were moved from one folder to another folder. So don't
Okay.
worry about that. Okay, so here's what happened. It's been one of my goals to go through all of our design collections from the beginning and update the SVG files so that everything includes the 12 by 12 box, because I think it makes it so much easier for people to make sure that the cutting files is exactly the right size. Now, the Cricut Maker used to have all kinds of funky things when you import an SVG file and there's no knowing how big it would be. So that was a problem, although that problem seems to have gone away. The Brother Scan and Cut, if you ever have a file that is bigger than an 11.5, or certainly if at 11 3/4, I think 11.5 works, but if you've got a file that's 11 3/4 or 12 inches in either direction, the Scan and Cut will shrink it. And if you have to go to your instructions every time and say, how big is it supposed to be? Is it supposed to be 11 3/4? Is it supposed to be 12? That to me is a lot of hard work and has the potential to lead to a lot of frustration. But if everything is 12 by 12, which we've been doing for a number of years, then you automatically know. Now, the other thing is that we've also been including the FCM files. Brother gave us permission to do that. So for the collections which didn't have FCM files, we've been creating them. So we actually have a whole bunch of them, which we're ready to kind of get the updated SVG and the FCM files added. And Simply Dreaming was on the list. So Cass, just before Christmas, went through all of the Simply Dreaming SVG files and made sure that everything had a 12 by 12 square on, because Simply Dreaming did not have the 12 by 12. It had all, you could have been any size, right? Generated all the FCM files. And then I had a couple of questions coming in from people who were working on their quilts. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know the answer to that. And I had to go into the instructions and I'm like, we need to do something about this, because it wasn't particularly easy coming at it from 5 years later to get immediately to the answer. So we've reformatted the instructions to match our current day standard, which I think is a lot easier to follow because you can start at the beginning and work through. We've got kind of a system for showing people, especially on the quilting, exactly where the quilting alignment points are. Some of the trimming, we're just it's not exactly a reformat, although it certainly that is part of it, but it was kind of trying to streamline everything.
More
So the design,
standardized.
I'm sorry?
More standardized to what you're doing now.
Yeah. So hopefully going from 1 month to the next, it would be just a lot easier. We also, as Marilyn pointed out, because Marilyn, bless her heart, went through the entirety of the instructions for me and made sure that everything was good and accurate. So yes, we separated the 5-inch blocks from the 7.5-inch blocks. And so if you're working on a 5-inch, you go this direction. If you're working on the 7.5, you can use this direction. And there's no needing to figure out, am I supposed to be doing this or am I supposed to be doing that?